if Andy Serkis does not get an Oscar nominee, so much as an Oscar nomination for these movies, I officially have given up on humanity. So, this is gonna be a spoiler-free review. Now, I'm gonna have a spoiler review after this video, but here it's gonna be spoiler-free, so I may be vague. You know, I'm gonna try to be as vague as possible. Now, yeah, after the aftermaths of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, this really puts Caesar in the darkest place that he's ever been in, like ever, and where he starts to question his own morality, you know, like along the way, and it's more intense than how it looked in the trailers. Especially lives up to the tone of the first trailer, where all you felt was sadness and darkness and madness. That's what this movie is. That's what this movie basically is. The darkest of the three, and it's like this could, like this is where Caesar becomes, where his leadership becomes breakable. And basically, him as a leader, you know what I mean. Him as a leader, he has become breakable, and this, this movie literally stomps him in the ground, like literally, like once you think the movie is gonna calm down after that, like no, it throws something else at him, and another, and another, and another, and another. I mean, I almost cried during this movie. I mean, I almost cried rewatching the first two movies. And I was prepared that this movie was going to potentially make me cry. And my only regret, for seeing this is not bringing a box of Kleenex with me. Like, so if you're going to go see this movie, go buy some Kleenex on your way to the movie theater. For realsies. For realsies. I'm not kidding. And also, like the chips are literally down in this movie, like where it's basically marketed as the last movie, so like as the end, basically. So, yeah. So that means usually, at the end of a trilogy, that nobody is safe, including the main character. Even the main character can die. So, which means Caesar is not safe. I don't feel like he's safe in this movie. I feel like he was safe in the other movies, but here, I feel like he's basically in the red zone here. I mean, like, even he could die. I was literally scared for him as it got towards the end of the movie. The same thing for every other ape. Maurice and all the other apes that followed behind Caesar. I mean, it's intense. It really is intense. And you kind of understand where the Colonel, Woody Harrelson's character, is coming from to some degree, even though I doubt you're going to agree with his methods, but you kind of see where he's going with it. But you understand Koba a lot more, like with how he felt towards humans, and like I felt a bit more sympathy for Koba than I do for the Colonel. But well, if you see the movie, I mean, that may be up for debate. But I mean, yeah, it's and with the sign language, like Caesar talks at his best in this movie, like where he talks for word, where he talks perfectly. And he talks better than me. And with the other apes where they do sign language, I mean, it's never a bore like when they do that. Like usually I get bored when I have to read subtitles at the bottom of a movie. Passion of the Christ is probably the only other movie where it did not bore me when I read everything that everyone was saying. But even in like for example in Shin Godzilla, like where that whole movie was where they speak in Japanese in the majority of the time and I have to read subtitles, dude, like throughout the movie, the way they released it here in the US limitedly, where they had the limited release for the movie. I had to read subtitles through like almost the whole movie, and it kind of aggravated me a little bit, but not enough to where I was like, you know what, I'm getting sick of this movie. But I just didn't feel like reading. I just wanted to watch some action and Godzilla tear shit up. But here, when the apes are doing sign language, it never bothers me. I'm like, I really want to know what they're saying. When they're starting to move their arms around, I'm like, I really want to know what they're talking about. Like, I'm immediately invested, like, into whatever they're conversating about, whatever it's about where they wanted to stay, or how they think, you know, life is going to be for them, or they're going to go and march into war, or they're going to try to avoid a war, etc., etc. Whatever they want to talk about, they could talk about, like, they can talk about Twitter tweets, and I would still be intrigued. But and also and has some very, you know, interesting new characters that come into here, like the little girl that you see in the trailers that is riding with Maurice and Caesar, and you see her with Caesar in the posters. She, you know, she's a really good character, and she has her scenes with the apes have very powerful moments. Like, it almost had me in tears. Like, especially her bond with Maurice. I mean, it's golden. They have a new ape that comes into the fold, Bad Ape, and, you know, like, he's like the one that provides humor to the movie, and you would be afraid that his humor would be a flaw in the movie, but it really isn't. I mean, it actually works, and then it doesn't force feed you. You know, like, his humor is not force fed upon you. At least for me, it wasn't. And as sad and dark as this movie is, you need a little bit of laughter, you know, to sort of ease down the sadness in your heart. You know, like, seriously, like, if your heartstrings are still intact after watching this movie, your heart isn't beating. And also, like, I mean, I love how each movie in this trilogy basically is trying to send a message, like, don't try to play God. Like, even in other movies, other sci-fi movies, it says that, where, like, in Jurassic Park it said that, in Godzilla, the very first Godzilla movie, it said that, and now this movie says that in a very beautiful way. And another thing that I love about these apocalyptic stories, you know, especially this one, it makes you step out of your own morality, and it makes you question yourself. Like, if you were really in that predicament, like, where would you stand in all of this? I mean, like, would you agree with the Colonel, or would you be with Caesar? I mean, like, if you were to agree with the Colonel, as tyrannical and genocidal, you know, his methods are, there's a little bit of understanding, you know, like, in that direction. But even though I don't agree with, like, at least I don't agree with it entirely, but still, it gives you a lot to think about. Like, would you really be, like, would your role into an apocalyptic world such as this, would it be as black and white as you claim it, as you think it might be? I mean, it's something you really got to think about. I mean, like, you know, Walking Dead also, you know, falls into that same category as well. And it's like, I understand some of these characters, like, you know, like especially in the second one and in this movie, I understand each decision that the characters are making, like, you know, in some way or another. Like, you just gotta really think about it, even though you don't agree with their decisions, but you understand why they're doing what they're doing, you know? And even though we're supposed to be rooting for the apes, you know, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's their movie, it's about them, so yeah, we're obviously going to be rallying behind them, but maybe some of you are rallying behind the humans, like, where you want to see the apes fall, maybe, I don't know, but I assume a lot of you want to see the apes rise to the top, even though they did do that in the first movie. I mean, that's in the title of the first movie, but you get where I'm going with this. and it's officially became one of the most epic and most fantastic, magnificent, phenomenal, the most phenomenal trilogies ever made for realsies. Usually the third movie, you know, is like the weakest part of a trilogy sometimes in most people's opinions, but here this is the strongest. Like, this basically is the strongest in the trilogy. Like, it has a strong conclusion, and it puts Caesar in the darkest point, and you start to wonder if he will come back from that, or if this will change him. And yeah, I mean, you just have to see it for yourself, honestly. I mean, like, it is that damn good. It is that damn good. And it wore me out. It knocked the wind out of me. I wanted to put a review right after. I wanted to put my review on, like, just basically upload my review on this movie right after I got back from seeing it. But I was so worn out and so depressed. I needed to bunker down and sort of get some energy back in me, and so I can say what I had to say about the movie. And yeah, and I loved how the trailers, how vague the trailers were, where it looks like it's human versus apes, but there's more to it than that. And the war that you think you're gonna see is, there's more to it than that, as well. Like, where it's like, oh, okay, so like, you're getting more than what you're bargained for. And I think you'll be satisfied. And I cannot think of a single flaw in this trilogy that I didn't like. I cannot think of any part of these movies that I did not like. And I am surprised that with something with the concept of apes being intelligent and talking and being able to fight back and almost being superior to mankind, like with a concept as hokey and stupid as that, and then it becomes something really epic and phenomenal. I know it's been around for years, and the original movies just seem stupid to me, but these movies here, from Rise of the Planet of the Apes up until this movie, is phenomenal. Like, it's phenomenally done. And like, with that all being said, this gets 5 solid chair spins out of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 epic solid chair spins. So yeah, go see the movie. If you loved the first 2, I guarantee you're gonna love this one. And I will have my spoiler video up, like, for you guys to check out after you see the movie and hear what I have to say on the spoilers. So yeah, if you guys enjoy my review on this movie, make sure you thumb up the video, make sure you click subscribe if you're newbie to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.